Making a Stuart model steam plant. Early days yet for this series, this is part 2. More parts arrived for the Stuart Steam Plant project, and in this episode I'm having a quick look at 5 Stuart Steam engines. The first thing out of the box is this Stuart 500 boiler, which is really badly beaten about. It almost looks like a blunt instrument murder weapon. I don't think I've ever seen a model steam boiler that's been as bad as this one. When I perform the hydraulic test, I'll try more pressure in this one and see whether it knocks the dint out. The 500 boiler is the smallest of the 500 series. You have a 500, a 501 and a 504. The rest of the pieces with this 500 boiler seem to be okay. Here's one of the side panels. Nothing wrong with that a good coat of paint won't put right. And thankfully the original heat insulation, which was asbestos, has been removed and replaced with this modern equivalent. There are various small packages in amongst this stuff that's arriving from the USA. Here's a bag full of Stuart double 10 piping, and here's a very small beaten up condenser. This is far too small to be practical for anything that I make. It's extremely small. It would be okay for something the size of a small Cheddar model steam plant. Now the video is going to start to get interesting. This is a double 10, and it's a quite nicely made double 10. To give it its full title, it is a double 10V. It's called a double 10V because it's 2 number 10s side by side on a common sole plate, and it's a vertical engine. I wonder if it works. I will apply some compressed air to the inlet. And yes, it does. It works very well. It's very responsive. I did notice that the centre bearing plate was loose. So here, using the point of my scriber, I'm seeing how slack the nuts are, and they're quite slack, so I'm going to use a spanner and tighten them up. And here I'm doing just that. When I tightened the nuts fully, the crankshaft became quite tight, so it will need a very thin shim underneath the bearing. The engine's very lively. It really does run well. One minor problem that I've just come across is the fact that the crankshaft is slightly bent. Not a lot, just a tiny bit. But the crankshafts on these number 10s and double 10s are only 9/32 of an inch in diameter, so they do bend very easily. If you look at the edge of the flywheel, you can see there's quite a lot of run out. I do need to correct this as part of the job. I will have to do this very scientifically, and I'm going to show you a method that you must not use. Here I've firmly clamped a drill chuck onto the end of the crankshaft, and now if I rotate the drill chuck I can see where the run out is, and by applying the gentlest of pressure on the drill chuck I can straighten the crankshaft slightly. But please don't be tempted to try this method on your own engine. It can make matters much worse if you don't have the experience. I haven't really put much pressure on this, but already you can see the flywheel run out has improved, or should I say the lack of flywheel run out. I know, I'll just give it another slight tweak. And as I'm doing this, I realise that this is a terrible way to straighten a crankshaft. I would normally do it in the lathe. I'll show that later. After the second gentle application of the drill chuck, things got a whole lot better. But once again, do not try this. Really, do not try this. And now for something completely different. This is another Stuart double 10, and this one is definitely different. It's got the wrong flywheel on it. The crankshaft is incredibly bent, but once again only at the flywheel end, and at the other end the valve gear is absent. Here's a clip of the first double 10, and now here's a clip of the second one, and as you can see the flywheel really is wobbly. The engine runs okay just on one cylinder. I wonder if there's a valve in this second one. All of this stuff has come from a man in America, and what I need to do is find the best parts out of all the stuff that I'm being sent and build a really good quality steam plant. But I definitely will not be using this 500 boiler. Here are a pair of Stuart S50 engines, both in mediocre condition. I had a look at them before I started filming. But I haven't tested them to see whether they work yet. I always like to run things on camera. I've fitted a suitable pin through the valve rod and valve fork on this first engine. On Stuart S50s the crank webs are threaded, and on this particular engine the crank web is very loose, so I'm retightening it. In the next shipment there will be a third S50 arriving. I'm hoping it's better than this one. In common with most S50s, the cylinder is loose. and when I run it at a slower speed it sounds a bit like a pneumatic drill. I think I need to take a look at the valve timing. I reset the eccentric at approximately 90 degrees to the crank pin. I'll try it again. There's quite a lot of side play on the crankshaft, but really it is fixable, although I'm hoping that the other engine that's arriving is going to be better. In any case, any of the engines that are used in this plant will be fully repaired and set up by me, and I will also be selecting the best of the 504 boilers that I received. This is the other S50 as you can see, and one of the bolts is missing that holds the cylinder in place. Has it sheared off? I don't know. This one is quite pathetic. It has no power whatsoever. The intention is to use one of these S50s to drive a generator. With such a lack of power, this one is not capable of driving anything. In one of the boxes is a complete boiler kit from PM Research. I don't think I'll be doing much with this. I don't really build boilers, it's not my thing. Once upon a time I was thinking about building a boiler, then I read the book Model Boilers and Boiler Making by K.N. Harris, and it really put me off. It was possibly the most negative tutorial book I ever read, and because of that I've never built a boiler. Here's yet another 504 boiler, and this one's not in bad condition. There's a bit of a ding on the top, but basically it's okay. So here's the story so far. Apart from the engines you've just seen, these are the boilers that have already arrived. I almost forgot, there's also a steam pump. This is a Stuart Steam pump. It's got a bit of a ding in the cladding, but this is very common. I'm going to see if it runs, so I'm oiling it first. I've put some oil into the water inlet to lubricate the water cylinder. Quite a lot of these pumps that I come across don't run well at all. Most of them spend their life in glass cases. Let's see what this one does. Here's a closer look. It looks like it's been shot with an air rifle. Or is this just a bad omen? Is this where the owner threw it across the workshop when it wouldn't work? I'll find out in a minute. It looks to be very well made, and now it's fully oily. Time to connect the compressed air. As the oil mist that is supplied by the airline started to work its way through all the internal components, the pump speeded up. This is a great pump, it runs very well indeed, no sign of any air leaks, so things are looking up. I'll be more optimistic when I see it running on steam. And that's it for this episode. Stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.